How do great players miss free throws? It's like the only time that dudes on the couch are like, I could have done that. And they're actually right. It turns out that pressure is the best defender in the NBA. Well, in game 1 of the 95 finals, a 70% free throw shooter missed 4 straight, and it changed the course of NBA history. Michael Jordan won 6 rings, Kobe and Shaq teamed up in LA, Dwayne Wade attracted LeBron to Miami. None of that happens if a good player makes just 1 free throw. The guy that broke those 4 free throws in a row was Nick Anderson, and he was a really good player. He scored 50 in a game, but no one remembers that because Shaq broke the backboard that night. They had to change a rule to have an extra basket in every arena because of Shaq, but he also changed the Magic as a franchise. They were an expansion team like 4 years before. They sucked! Their first ever pick was Nick Anderson, by the way. Then Shaq changed everything when they drafted him in 1992, like he did with basically every franchise he went to. But young Shaq was just different. I mean, people forget how truly athletic he was back in the day. He was basically like Giannis of the early 90s when you look at him. He won Rookie of the Year. Orlando went from 21 wins to 45 wins, but they still missed the playoffs by 1 game, which is like the worst place you can be in as a franchise. You're not good enough to make the playoffs, but you have horrible lottery odds. They actually had the worst odds to get the #1 pick that year. Out of 60 plus ping pong balls to get the #1 pick, 1 of them said Magic on it. So Commissioner David Stern was picking out ping pong balls and reading off picks, but somehow the Magic just weren't getting picked. They kept moving up in the draft. It came to the top 3 spots. The Warriors got #3, the Sixers got #2. No one has ever had worse lottery odds and gotten the #1 pick. Orlando could pair anyone they wanted to with their franchise player. The only problem was there wasn't like a no doubt talent like there was with Shaq the year before. There was Chris Webber, there was Sean Bradley. Penny Hardaway was actually under the radar at Memphis, but Shaq got a real close look at him because they filmed the Blue Chips movie together that offseason. So he told the Magic, you better draft Penny Hardaway. But that didn't happen. Orlando took Chris Webber instead, but the Orlando fans loved it. Then, just as they were all celebrating, David Stern made an announcement. Orlando was trading the draft rights to Chris Webber for Penny Hardaway and 3 first-round picks. The Magic fans' mood totally changed. They hated it, but Shaq loved it. I mean, he wasn't gonna have to share the front court with Chris Webber, and he was gonna have a young point guard to set him up. On top of that, before the season, the opportunity of a lifetime happened. Michael Jordan retired from pro basketball to play baseball instead. I mean, the NBA was losing its biggest star, but now you could argue. So Orlando started Penny halfway through his first year, and the two were amazing together. He was great at setting Shaq up, and if the big man had an off scoring night, Penny could take over the scoring. Orlando thought they had a young Kareem and Magic for the future. Just a little too young though, so they lost in the first round of the Pacers, but they signed Horace Grant and Brian Shaw in the offseason. Immediately, they won 57 games that year and got the 1 seed. People don't appreciate how quick the Magic were competitive. The only thing we've seen that's comparable is KD, Russ, and Harden getting to the finals in year 4 in OKC. The Magic got there in year 6 as an expansion team. So in the playoffs, Orlando beat the Celtics in round 1 before a gigantic shocker in round 2. Michael Jordan came out of retirement just before the playoffs. They had to play him in round 2. Imagine having like the dream of all dream seasons just for the GOAT to come out of retirement. MJ was wearing number 45 and he had his team up late in game 1, trying to dribble out the clock, when Nick Anderson stole the ball from behind him, leading to an Orlando fast break. Not only did the Magic come back to win, but Anderson told the media, hey, number 45 ain't as good as number 23, which he, of course, took personally.
It became personal with me.
MJ switched back to number 23, dropped 38 points in a game 2 win. What the f, Nick Anderson? Shaq and Penny were getting doubled in Game 3, but luckily for the Magic, Horace Grant wanted revenge against his old team. Dude stepped up with the best playoff series he has ever had. Over 20 points a game, blowing up the Bulls' game plan. Then Shaq and Dennis Scott all had over 20 in Game 6, and the Magic beat MJ after 18 months away from the game. The Magic did what no team since the '89 Pistons could do, sending Jordan home early. So they partied like that was the finals. Yeah, probably too early to celebrate, but Orlando was 1, hosting the finals, 2, the Rockets were a 6 seed, and 3, they beat Houston by a combined 34 points in the regular season. So Game 1 tipped off, and Orlando played like champions at first. They led by like 20 points in the first half, before the Rockets took over in the third quarter. Kenny Smith knocking down threes, and the Magic lead was just 3 points with 10 seconds left. So the Rockets desperately fouled Nick Anderson, and all he had to do was make 1 free throw to make it a 2-possession game to win Game 1. Dude stepped up and clanked the first one. He pounded on his chest because he was upset with himself, but no big deal, he'll make the second, right? Wrong. But he got his own rebound and got fouled again. You rarely get a second chance like this in sports. So Anderson stepped to the line and missed a 3rd straight free throw. I mean, at this point, he's just smiling because this is getting ridiculous. The 4th shot went up and went out again. The Rockets grabbed the board this time and called a timeout. All Anderson could do was look up and ask how this was happening. Now, there was still time to win with a 3-point lead, but Kenny Anderson got the inbounds and hit a then record 7th tray to force overtime. Obviously, the Rockets won in OT, and I know some people are gonna say it was just 1 game, but the actual players who were there that night say it was a lot more than that.
I remember Horace trying to rally us. Come on, guys, come on, let's get out. We're still good. We weren't good.
But when that happens to a young team, it kind of deflates your confidence.
After that Game 1 loss, it was just like, are we really that good?
Our guys were kind of broken mentally a little bit by that game.
When things went bad, they all sort of imploded. You could see the immaturity. I think everybody changed their minds pretty quickly about the Orlando Magic after that first game.
The what if from those missed free throws is the biggest in NBA history. If they win that game, they believe in themselves. Maybe win Game 2 at home. If they win the series, Shaq probably doesn't leave Orlando in free agency. That means the Magic continue to be a serious rival to the Bulls in the East. Michael Jordan probably doesn't win all 6 rings because he's got Shaq entering his prime to go through. Now, I'm not saying that the Magic would go on to win rings. Maybe Stockton and Malone get one in the finals. The legacies that could have been affected are crazy. Michael Jordan goes from 6 chips to at least 5. Stockton and Malone could get at least 1. Hakeem Olajuwon goes from 2 rings to 1. Clyde Drexler from 1 to 0. I mean, all of 90s basketball looks completely different and maybe the top 25 players of all time. Then you move to the next decade and things get even weirder. If Shaq doesn't leave in free agency, the Lakers don't pair him with Kobe Bryant. I guarantee Kobe leaves the Lakers if he's not winning rings in LA. He would have gone searching for a ring somewhere else that's just his personality. Or maybe the Lakers never even draft Kobe. They traded Vlade Divac on draft night to Charlotte because they had just signed the best center in the game. Well, if they don't have Shaq, they need to keep Vlade, and the trade never happens. Kobe would have at least started his career in Charlotte. By the way, the biggest benefactor to no Shaq Kobe Lakers is the Spurs. Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili would have at least 1 more chip. That puts Duncan at 6 rings and MJ at 5. I'm not saying that TD is better than MJ, but at least it'd be closer. Later in the decade, Shaq left LA to go to Miami, and Dwayne Wade wins a title in 06. Not only does D Wade not get a ring, but Dirk Nowitzki goes from 1 championship to 2. If the Heat aren't a championship team, then does LeBron James actually leave Cleveland for Miami? Literally, the NBA, as we know it, could be different if Nick Anderson made 1 of 4 free throws. Guys, another amazing story from NBA history is how a guy went from an NBA career to being literally a truck driver. And this is actually one of the more inspirational stories I've ever heard.